I'm back with journalist and commentator Drew Hernandez, star witness at the Rittenhouse trial. We're talking about Kenosha on that fateful night. Drew, you show up, you see this rioting in full gear. Now, I think this is actually critical and was critically important in your testimony because the key issue for Kyle Rittenhouse is simply this. Did he have in his mind a rational fear that he was in real danger? And I think what you're saying and what helped to corroborate his testimony is you're saying there was real danger on the street that night. You saw it, you felt it. Talk about the mood on the street that very night.
It was multiple nights, Dinesh. I was there on night one. And then on night two, that's when I came back to Chicago, did a Tucker hit, and then I came back night three. It was 3 consecutive nights of violent rioting, arson, vandalism, and looting across this whole little town of Kenosha. Listen, Dinesh, to the point where some of the residents were boarding up their windows and they were writing on the boards, "Children live here." I was just in Kenosha a couple days ago to testify, obviously, Dinesh, and they're still boarding up their windows, even senior citizen homes, writing, "Senior citizens live here," or "Old people live here." There was an obvious threat to the community. People were fearing for their lives because the police were not responding appropriately. I could understand maybe on night one, they weren't prepared. I don't think anybody's prepared for a violent riot. But night two, it was still going on and it was completely unacceptable. And it wasn't until night three did they start dispersing more tear gas and rubber bullets and pushing the riots back. And that's when Kyle Rittenhouse showed up. The rioters are the ones who showed up with long gun rifles to begin with, and they were committing arson, vandalism, looting. The mood of the night was violence, criminal, and mob mentality. Clearly.
Now, Drew, you know one of the points that people make about Kyle Rittenhouse from the left is that he came to Kenosha looking for trouble. And what I find interesting is that they never point out that the rioters came to Kenosha looking for trouble. Talk a little bit about Rosenbaum and what you observed, and the ways in which here's a guy who was looking for a fight.
Absolutely. Every time I saw Joseph Rosenbaum, and let me remind your viewers, this is not my opinion. I am an eyewitness, but like we began this show, I have full body cam footage to corroborate everything I'm saying. And it was played in the trial and it's in the hands of the jury. Just want to put that out there. Every time I encountered Rosenbaum, extremely violent. He was attempting to push a burning garbage dumpster into police squad vehicles across the street, clearly. And then when an individual put that out with a fire extinguisher, he immediately got triggered and attempted to spark some kind of physical confrontation with people with long arm rifles in a gas station. You could see that on video very clearly, to the point where he's requesting to be shot, literally, while using the N-word. And once he retreated from the gas station, he went back to the street, then covered his face, went to go light another trash can, and 2 minutes and 5 seconds go by between he's committing arson and he's charging Kyle Rittenhouse at the third car source from behind. And it's all history from there. Joseph Rosenbaum is not a victim, okay? We all know his criminal past. He was a convicted pedophile. He raped little boys. But on the night of this incident, he was in a very violent state of mind, committing arson, and he was requesting to be shot, attempting to spark physical confrontation, and then he charged a minor from behind and then reached for his weapon, lunged at him. Behind him, Kyle turns around, says, "F you," and that's when Kyle fires. So Joseph Rosenbaum is not a victim. He's not someone that is this, sweet little saint that was just there to protest for Black people. No, that guy was there with a violent mentality, and it's very clear because actions speak way louder than words.
I want to talk a little bit about the role of the media, because I went back and read some of the New York Times's sort of detailed coverage about what happened, and you got the impression, reading that, you would never know that there was a gang of these thugs chasing Rittenhouse. You almost got the idea that Rittenhouse was chasing them. And the reason that you know that this message went out to the left is that when Anna Kasparian, who's with the Young Turks, she made a video and she goes, when I saw the trial, I was kind of shocked because it was completely different than everything I had read about the case. I was learning things about it that directly contradicted essentially what she had been told in the mainstream media. So I want to get your thoughts about, here you are and you've got these reporters. It's not like they're not there. Are they just maliciously and deliberately lying, and are they doing that for ideological reasons?
I would have to say yes. I mean, this goes all the way up to the presidential campaign. President Joe Biden's campaign literally used an image of Kyle Rittenhouse to accuse then President Trump of not dealing with white supremacy. That this is how far the propaganda really goes, and the mainstream media just goes alongside with it. It's funny, Dinesh, because the prosecutor immediately tried to attack me and my credibility by trying to prove that I'm biased. Now, the reason why he did that was because I am an eyewitness. I submitted about 100 videos of body cam footage of corroborating what I am testifying under oath. And it's for this very reason. They're the ones who are biased. They're the ones who want to put a political spin on this. Because when someone like me comes around that not only saw this, but has body cam footage that is impossible to be biased, it just speaks for itself. Their only weapon against me is to slander me, to discredit me, and try and spin their bias upon me or whatever it is that I claim to be saying. And I think that just speaks for itself, Dinesh. And that's what I was trying to show the jury as I was testifying is you guys can see this for yourself. I don't even need to be here to talk about it. I submitted all the footage to the defense and the prosecution to the state. You guys can watch this all for yourself, and you guys are smart enough to make a decision. And that's what the mainstream media doesn't do for the American people. They think they know better for you, and they know better than you, and they think they can think for you by just spewing propaganda down your mouth on a daily basis.
I mean, my favorite moment was when the prosecutor said to you something to the effect of, well, you seem to be biased against the rioters, as if to say that this was a shocking position for you to take, that you've got something against riots, and you calmly pointed out, guys, this is what they were doing on the video.
Absolutely. It's like, I didn't come there to argue with him. I was compliant with the defense and the prosecution, but he came after me because he knew that I was a very credible witness. And that was the only thing he could do. He couldn't argue with the footage. Every time he tried, it didn't go well for him. So all he could do is try and say that I'm biased in this and that. But my only bias in the context, because in the media, everyone's like, Drew, you're obviously biased. What do you mean you're not biased? I'm open about my bias, but in the context of testifying under oath with what happened the night Kyle Rittenhouse shot Joseph Rosenbaum and what I saw, no, my bias was the truth and the body cam footage that I have as evidence that was submitted to the state. That was my bias in the context of testifying under oath.
Do you think, Drew, if Kyle Rittenhouse gets off, which I hope he does, that the media will learn a lesson from this? Or do you think that they will just come right back, and even though you got a white guy who shot 3 other white guys, they'll be, this is a triumph of white supremacy? In other words, they will still protect the lying narrative, even though it's been put up for judgment. You've had a jury weighing in on it. It'll make absolutely no difference. What's your prediction, not about the outcome of the case, but about the outcome of the ideological narrative in the aftermath of the case?
Well, I mean, did they learn from Nick Sandmann? I mean, it seems like they didn't, because they're still smearing teenagers in the mainstream media, trying to use them as symbols of white supremacy or a threat to the radical left or a threat to minorities. I think we'll have to see what they do. I mean, obviously, it would be wise for them to make a lot of retractions because they have totally blew it. I mean, to the point where you have Black people on Twitter that are coming out and saying, yeah, I had no idea that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't shoot any people of color. That's like going viral on Twitter right now. That's how strong the propaganda is right now. So I think what we have to pay attention to is if Kyle does walk, let's see how he responds to all the defamation that he's received in the mainstream media. I think that will show how they'll respond to that.
Drew, you're a very brave man. Keep doing the great work you're doing. I'd love to have you back sometime soon. And thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you.